Oh, so welcome back to my channel. I'm just on my way up Snowdon or BYOF. Today's video is going to be about intermittent fasting while hiking and the many benefits of that. I'll put a picture up of what I looked like at 16.5, 17 stone, right there. And then again, what I looked like last year when I was at my lowest at around about 12 stone. Massive difference. I don't know if you've watched the last video, but if you have, you'll see that I was basically knackered and I couldn't make it the whole way up the mountain. That's inspired me to come back to the beginning, back to Snowdon, where it all began. So 12 years ago, I used to work in an office and had a very sedentary lifestyle. Every Friday, I would binge drink to excess. Did no exercise whatsoever. Never even thought about being out in the mountains, really. I was extremely unhealthy, 16.5, 17 stone. Yeah, I was not in a good state at all. And then one day out of the blue, my brother just asked if I wanted to go up to Snowdon. And I didn't really know what I was letting myself in for. I just said yeah. So we ended up doing the pig route. Ooh, a bit breezy. We ended up doing pig, and Christ, I mean, I had to stop at least 50 times on the way up. I was an absolute mess. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but bizarrely, I just loved it. So I'm almost definitely on the spectrum, and I've got a very kind of addictive personality. So basically, as soon as I'd done Snowdon, that was it. My life completely changed. I was hooked. I was just out like multiple times a week. So fast forward 11 years, which is last year, and I'm the lowest weight I've ever been, except when I was a fetus. So I'm 12 stone, healthiest I've ever felt, 4.5 stone, 5 stone altogether I lost. You know, I just simply can't stress enough how being introduced to the outdoors completely changed my life. I'll always be grateful for my brother kind of showing me the outdoors and giving me that little bit of an opportunity to kick up the arse that I really needed. But, you know, like everyone, I have my ups and downs. And over the last year, I've really let myself go, put on another stone. I'm just really determined now to get back on it and get back out. So all that being said, today, while I'm having a little hike up Snowdon, I'm going to talk a little bit about intermittent fasting while hiking. I mean, other than being introduced to the outdoors, this is most likely the most significant change in my life. I'm fairly sure that everybody's heard of intermittent fasting. It's a bit of a buzz at the moment, you know, everyone's doing it. What's not so common is hiking while fasted. To some degree, there's a bit of a trend to do a jog in the morning or something while you're fasted. But what I'm talking about today is prolonged bouts of exercise while fasted. Talking about like kind of anywhere from 4 hours to 12 hours of constant hiking while fasted. And it sounds a little bit crazy, but trust me, it is absolutely game-changing. The amount of energy that you have while fasted for things like hiking is off the charts. It really is ridiculous. So I'm going to explain a little bit the principles of fasting for those that don't know. It's all going to be very simplified because obviously there's a lot more to it than I've got time to talk about. So in a nutshell, everybody's got 3 main sources of energy. They've got fat, they've got food energy, glucose, and then they've got something called glycogen. I'm not going to really talk about glycogen. That's essentially just extra energy that's stored in your muscle. We all know what food energy is. You know, we all know that if you want energy, you eat. And we all know that fat is stored energy. But what most people don't know is that you can't actually access your fat stores after you've eaten. It takes around about 8 hours after your last meal before you can actually start metabolizing fat. Now this makes things really quite interesting So if you wake up in the morning and have a bowl of cereal, let's say that's 300-400 calories, you're now unable to burn fat as a fuel source, so you're effectively running on this 300 or 400 calories. If you then go out and start a big hike, you can really quickly run out of energy because those 300 or 400 calories aren't going to last very long. Now at this point, your body can tap into its glycogen, but what it can't really do is tap into your fat. So essentially, once you've started eating, you need to continue eating. You need to kind of graze all the way up the mountain. And people know this, you know. It's really common to see people eating sweets and nuts and things all the way up a mountain. Each fuel source has its own benefits. And an easy way of looking at this is how fast each fuel burns kind of dictates what exercise it's best for. So high intensity things like running, jogging, things like that, that's going to require really quick access to fuel. So food, glucose, it's absolutely ideal for that. But if you're going to do some lower intensity exercise, such as hiking or walking, then a slow burning fuel source, aka fat, is absolutely ideal. And even if you are one of the leanest people on the planet, you've still got thousands of calories worth of fat. Your average person has most likely got hundreds of thousands. So again, in a very oversimplified way, if you are relying on a fat source as your energy and you haven't eaten, so you're actually able to metabolize fat, then you essentially have an almost unlimited fuel source. Now, it's not as black and white as that. Obviously, hiking, it's a little bit up and down. For example, I'm going up a pretty steep section now. That's quite likely going to be requiring a little bit more of a burst of energy than my fat can supply. In which case, my body will probably tap into the glycogen storage for a short while and give you that little boost. One of the hardest things for your body to actually do is to digest food. This is why you always feel drowsy after you've eaten. All of your blood goes to your stomach and your digestive system to start breaking down the food. And we all know from experience that this makes you feel pretty lethargic and tired. Everyone wants to have a nap, especially as older folk. So that's a benefit, you know, if you're eating the entire way up a mountain, not all of your energy is being utilised for the actual hike. A good portion of it is being used for the digestion itself. Another benefit is that obviously you're lighter, you don't have the food inside you. You know, you're a little bit more agile on your feet. It's a little bit easier to get up that hill. So everything taken into account, there are some really quite significant benefits to hiking while fasted. Now, there are a few caveats to this, of course, there always is. So firstly, it's probably not something that you're going to be able to just start doing immediately. It does take your body a while to adjust. So I would probably say that if you've never done fasting, do fasting for a while first before you start trying to do any kind of significant exercise while fasted. Kind of gradually build into it. It all depends on your eating habits throughout your life. So as a child, I rarely had breakfast anyway. So really, I've kind of brought myself up actually doing fasting because I usually wouldn't eat until dinner time in school, and then I wouldn't have snacks and things at night. So I was actually fasting from, say, 5:30 at night all the way through to 12 the next day. So my body was quite naturally accustomed to it as soon as I actually started doing it as an adult. So give it some time, let your body adjust to it, and just get into the rhythm of actually fasting. Even without doing the exercise, you'll feel the benefits of fasting. You know, these are well documented. I've gone through some of the key benefits of fasting while exercising, and obviously the main one is that the whole time you're burning fat as a fuel source, so you're going to be losing weight. Now, it's also important to bear in mind that there's quite a lot of evidence that shows that exercising actually doesn't really play a major role in weight loss. This isn't to say that you shouldn't exercise. the benefits of exercise are absolutely huge. But generally speaking, our bodies are really quite smart. So essentially what happens is when you lose a fairly substantial amount of calories through fat, your body does a little bit of a panic. It thinks it's in some sort of a life or death situation. It really does begrudge letting go of its fat stores. Whew. So what happens after you've done your exercise is your body then starts trying to replenish its fat supplies by making you hungry, making you eat more than you probably would normally. And it's actually really easy to burn off 1,000-2,000 calories on a big month day out, and then go home and consume 3,000 or 4,000 calories on food. This is the double-edged sword of trying to use exercise as weight loss. You can do it, but it's incredibly hard to manage. There's another factor as well that comes into play, which is something called NEAT, which is essentially all of the exercise that you do without it actually being exercise. So, for example, I'm talking now, waving my hands around, I'm all very animated. After this hike, when I go home, my body's probably going to try and conserve energy. I'd be less inclined to gesture as I'm talking. And another example would be, let's say I'm sitting on a couch and I need a wee. I'm much more likely to wait until I really need a wee before I get off that couch and go upstairs to the toilet, because you're doing less NEAT. That starts to offset the actual active exercise that you've done throughout the day. So essentially, you can't really rely on exercise alone to lose weight. The effect is actually really quite minimal, but it's not non-existent. It's actually just quite hard to do. So weight management is almost entirely down to diet. And this is again where fasting really comes into it, because you've got a restrictive window of when you eat. It actually becomes quite easy to consume less calories throughout the day. So you've got all of the benefits of fasting, but it's actually helping you kind of manage your weight a little bit better as well. If you've lost weight using fasting, or if you're new to fasting, drop a comment below and I'll be happy to have a chat with you about it, give you a few pointers or kind of chat about your experience. I find it really fascinating. So yeah, definitely drop a comment below. The eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed that I'm actually carrying a massive backpack today. I'm not actually doing a wild camp. However, on the back of my recent failure going up Snowdon Edge, I've decided that I really need to get back out and need to get accustomed to carrying heavier weights and things like that. Last thing I want to do is go out for a wild camp and then find myself so tired and don't enjoy it. So the next few hikes to do without wild camping, I'm going to carry my camping gear regardless. So I'm just going to talk about the pig track a little tiny bit. This is usually one of the first routes that people go up. One of the most famous, definitely. It's quite a varied route, so quite popular for that reason. It's not the easiest. The easiest is the Clonberis path. So although it's really quite clear and well pathed, there's some rocky sections and a couple of little sections where you've got to put your hand on the rock. That's one of the things I remember the most about doing this 12 years ago. I just really enjoyed putting my hand on the rock. And, you know, back then I thought it was like an epic scramble. And now I realise it's just it's a couple of steps, but it was just enough to kind of give me a little glimpse into just exactly what the mountains can offer. I was absolutely made up. So I'll tell you a little story now about what happened as well while I was on my way up. So it's actually round about here somewhere. I was sat off on a rock and I was just panting away. And this old guy kind of come up, really friendly, but he was just being really motivational. And I'll always remember this. After he'd finished chatting to me, he just turned around and said, "Anyway, I'm 70. And then just trotted off up the mountain. And I just remember distinctly thinking that the way I am now, with all this heavy drinking and abuse of my body, I won't even be alive at 70, let alone bouncing up mountains the way that he was. So whoever you are, mate, between you and my brother, I am so genuinely grateful for having my eyes opened. So as I say, it takes roughly 8 hours after your last meal before your body can start using fat as a fuel source. So when that happens, your body then starts feeling hungry. So because of this, what you really want to aim for is to stop eating with enough time so that that 8 hour kind of window closes while you're asleep. And that way, all of the hunger pangs and the urge to eat, that all happens while you're asleep. So if you stop eating at 8 o'clock at night, you're actually more likely to wake up in the morning not hungry. If you, say, had a snack at 11 o'clock, at 12 o'clock, that counts as reset, so it's now 8 hours after that. So you're going to wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning hungry as fuck. So you're going through that change, and your body is going to be like, whoa, come on, we need more food, we need more food. My advice would be that if you plan on doing this, make sure your last meal is around about 8 o'clock at night, the night before. Have no breakfast in the morning, and then just crack on. So for me now, it's about 3:30. I haven't ate since 8 o'clock last night, and I'm absolutely bursting with energy. I don't feel even slightly hungry, and I feel like I could just carry on hiking for hours and hours and hours. Now I have actually done that. I've been up Ben Nevis by the CMD in winter, done a camp and everything. I ran about 8 to 10 hours there hiking, completely fasted. I've done winter days out in Torridon, winter days out in Skye, again, all fasted. It really is unbelievable how much energy you have for hiking while you're fasted. If you're already into fasting, I definitely suggest giving hiking a try while fasted. It will really, really surprise you. If you're not already into fasting and it's something that you're interested in, give fasting a go for a few months, and then, maybe go for a walk in the mornings while you're fasted, build up. It's definitely one of those things that you need to try firsthand to really, truly understand just how good it is. It goes against pretty much everything that you've been brought up believing. However, that being said, it does make perfect sense when you view us as an animal. Most hunter-gatherers are quite likely to have fasted just as part of normal life. You're going to go out, you're going to hunt, you're going to eat like a king while that meat's still fresh, and then it's going to run out over the next few days, but that's going to give you enough energy to go a while before you actually need to go out and do another hunt. You've got to remember, and this applies to all animals, like hunting it requires a lot of energy, and it's risky. It's not something that you want to go out and do all the time unless you absolutely have to do it. So this is the process, basically. You've ate all of your stuff, you turn what's not needed into fat, you then live off that fat for the next few days, and then you go out and you hunt and you get more meat, and rinse, repeat. The way that I look at it is there's two very distinct animal lifestyles. There's the kind of carnivore, which is intermittent fasting, essentially go out, hunt, eat a lot, then don't eat for a few days. Or there's the kind of gatherer type diet, which is where you'll be eating nuts and berries and things, you'll be grazing constantly. Humans are quite interesting in that we kind of run quite well on both of those systems. What I must stress as well is just because you might be going up a mountain and you're not eating, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't take food with you. You should always take food with you, just in case. So I've always got a few thousand calories of nuts and sweets and things in my backpack, just in case. What I'd really appreciate as well, if this video has inspired you to give it a try, please give it a like and a subscribe, but also bookmark this video and come back to me when you've given it a try and post in the comments and let me know how it went. I'm genuinely interested to see how it's gone for people out there. So this wall marks the start of a section called the zigzags, and this is the steepest section really, and it takes you all the way zigzag all the way up to the top of the saddle, and from there you then go up this last section to the summit. So something worth bearing in mind here is very often the walk up pig is actually really quite sheltered because we're in a bit of a basin behind us, so it doesn't get the wind that much. But what happens is, as soon as you get to the top part here, you get hit by all of the wind, and it can be a bit of a shock if you're not expecting it. So just topped out on the saddle. You can hear the wind's picked up quite a bit. But look at that, absolutely amazing. It's 12 years ago when I got to this section. I mean, these steps, these were an absolute nightmare. I was so exhausted at this point, but I was so determined to make it all the way up. And the maddest thing is when I got to the top of these steps, I was actually so tired, I just went straight into the cafe and I never actually summited. And this is the very last section. So, all done, summited, on the way down now. I think that's probably all for today. I can go on for hours about intermittent fasting. I've just covered the basics today, just to hopefully open people's eyes about the possibilities and things. I've got about an hour of sunlight left, probably be about an hour and a half maybe. I'm back at Penny Pass, and I've got myself a nice meal waiting for me in the car. Top tip is, if you're fasting, you probably will be thinking about food on the way down, and it is always advisable to eat after you've done your hike. But because you're going to feel a bit hungrier than usual, you're best off actually bringing your own food, because the temptation will be to stop off at a shop on the way and buy a load of shite, and it is so easy to burn off 1,000, 1,500 calories on a mountain and then eat 2,500 calories just by eating crisps and sandwiches and things like that. So I've got myself a casserole in the car, which I'll chuck into as soon as I get in there, and then I'll drive home.